Hi, welcome to another episode of Cancer Tamer. I'm your host, Dr. Charley Ferrer.
And I'm Debra Santulli, Barone.
And we're here to talk to you about some of the new things to consider for 2021. We're going to start with what you've been asking us to know about how to keep track of everything that's going on for you. And one of the things that we'd like to remind you of is setting up reference cards.
Right. I call it medical reference cards.
Right.
So what is that? Okay.
What is that? So reference cards are basically ways to be able to keep all your information together, to have it ready to give to the physician, to give to your family, to give to whoever needs it. And I know when I was first going through this, there were so many issues that I was having that I really got tired of having to repeat myself, because that's the one thing that annoys the hell out of you. I know it does me, is repeating it over and over and over, because on one visit you're repeating it like 5 times. Well, I have breast cancer and these are the complications and this is the medicine I'm on and this is. It drives you nuts. So write it all down. Put it in a piece of paper, and put it on your card, on a small reference card, like Debra said. You have some of these that you can put them on. Give them to your family,
right. And you put them on your phone, as you had suggested too.
You can put them if you have a smartphone. You can put it on your smartphone, especially all the medication that you're taking, right. And not just don't just say, oh well, I'm on
Arimidex.
Arimidex. I even forgot what we were on. I'm on Arimidex, and so on. I'm on Arimidex, 20 milligrams, 3 times, whatever. Write it down so that you have it handy. You can do it on a little piece of paper. In our book, Breast Cancer from Diagnosis to Surgery, there's also a little guide sheet on there that you can use to fill in all the information, and have it handy, and especially have a copy of it and give it to whoever goes with you to the doctors, and just have them do that, because it's so much easier to just go, here you go, make a copy.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I remember going to the emergency room with my mom many a times, and it's you go into the triage first, and they ask you all these questions about what medication, who's the doctor, who's the contact. Then you go into the emergency room where they put you on a stretcher, and they're asking you that question again. Then the insurance comes over, that department, and they keep asking you the same questions. So that's why I decided to type up this paper, so that it tells you the name of the disease, the doctor that handles it, the medication that you take for it, and you just here you go, and you hand it out to everybody, and it's so much easier. I actually keep one in my car. I have one for my family and for my doctors, so I don't have to keep, like you said, reiterating over and over again. It's amazing.
And that gets
and you
annoying
forget too.
And also the piece that I looked at was, not only does it get annoying that you're repeating this a million times, but it also gets to where it gets into your bones, and then you start getting depressed. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I have cancer, and I'm on this med and that med and this complication, that complication, and this, and this doctor and that doctor. And you don't need to go through all that. Just have it written down. Give the little, 1 page or 2 pagers. Mine was actually like 6 pages.
Yeah,
long.
I believe it.
but because I got detailed. Here you go.
But you have to, because you even have to write down your allergies, because that's important. Like, I'm very sensitive to certain anesthesias, and so they need to know that, because what if you're wheeled into the ER and you can't even speak for yourself? What are you going to do? So somebody has to have this information.
Exactly.
It's very important.
Yeah.
So
and for those of you with smartphones, you can put some of this information on your smartphone under the emergency contact, because when first responders come, if God forbid, you're not able to give the information, they can look through your phone, and there's a certain emergency feature on your smartphone that you can put that information on there. So it acts as the diabetes.
That little
bracelet.
Yeah,
it's wonderful to have that there. And I always look at if you have a way to reference to keep yourself safe, it's better. And also it's time consuming to repeat yourself.
Definitely.
And annoying as hell.
Well, next thing we want to talk about is genetic testing. A lot of you out there, I'm sure your doctors would have asked, especially with breast cancer, at least get the genetic testing for the BRCA gene. These days, what I'm reading about with Cure Magazine is that all the tests have become a lot more updated, that you can catch so many other, you can find more cancers on this genetic testing. They test sometimes for 80 different kinds of cancers, which I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Now, with the Discrimination Act, I forgot what year it was, but now a company can't, if you're working for a company, you are not going to be fired because now you have, cancer. So that's important for you to know that. It's called the Non-Discrimination Act of 2008, or GINA, GINA. Now, if you've had early onset of cancer at the age or under 50, you should get tested. If you have multiple cancers, you should get tested. If you've had primary family members that have had cancers, maybe that's a good idea. Or if you're Ashkenazi Jewish heritage that have cancers, you should check that out. But you do know, you need to know something, forgive me, is that with, what is it? Not health insurance. Oh, with life insurance, they can actually deny you if they know that you have all these different cancers.
They don't want to pay out a claim, which is what it is.
Yeah, so like if you're going
but they can't discriminate against you.
Yeah, that's about the only one that you really would have trouble with. So it's something to think about when you see a genetic counselor. Don't just say, yeah, let me sign and do 80 different tests. Think about it, because that is a worrisome. If you're young and you want life insurance, they could deny you. Actually, I have some life insurance, but I was going to get more life insurance, and I was waiting for the breast cancer biopsy. And the insurance company that I was going to got wind of it, and then they kept stalling me and saying, oh, we don't have the papers ready. We don't have the papers. And me not knowing, they were waiting for my results. Yeah. And when they got the results, they denied me.
Yeah, but that is one of the pieces, though, that this is your personal information, and you do not need to reveal that to your employer or anybody else.
Right.
The one piece that I would say that, don't just look for the BRCA gene. You want to look across the board for everything. They should be evaluating all the genes. And here's the piece to remember. Please remember, just because you may test positive for any gene that carries cancer or that has the potential to give you this disease does not mean you will get this disease.
Right.
Let me repeat that. Just because you tested positive for any kind of illness doesn't mean that you will get it. It just means that you're more susceptible to get it. So you don't need to run out and get a dual mastectomy and ovary removal because you tested positive for the BRCA1 or the BRCA2 gene. It just means that you're more susceptible. So what does that mean? It means start looking at your diet, start looking at your environment, start looking at toxins that are in your community, in your foods, in your household products. That's what it means, and start reducing your risk. It's just like if somebody says, oh, well, alcoholism runs in my family. Well, it runs in your family, but it doesn't mean you're going to be an alcoholic. It just means that you are more susceptible to it because of life changes, life choices, and so on. So be conscientious of that.
Yes, but do be careful, like I said, because this act out there from 2008, it does not protect patients from the discrimination of life insurance, long-term disability, long-term care. So just talk to the right people, and hopefully they're honest. My genetic counselor was honest and said, look, this could affect life insurance. When I got denied for the extra life insurance at that time, 6 years ago, I felt at first like, oh my God, this is a death sentence. They think I'm going to die. And it was like so depressing. Yeah. And then, they wait a few years, and if your cancer doesn't come back, they contact you. So they did contact me and said, oh, now we're ready to look at your file. And I told them, go to hell. Boom. And
she's not always really nice.
No, I'm not. I could have said worse, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that really annoyed me.
Yeah, and And I would also say look into the information from Dr. Bruce Limpton. I just love this man. I can't say enough wonderful things about him. He is one of the fathers of epigenetics, and he talks about how we all have these different genes in our body, and depending on our health and how we interact with our own body is whether or not these genes get turned on and turned off. And so being very conscientious, I would recommend reading some of his books. The Biology of Belief is a big one. And so it's also about how you maintain your own positivity and your own mental, emotional, and spiritual connections to yourself. Because if you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is going to be horrible, then you're already setting yourself up for pain and suffering and mental anguish and just living out of fear. And that's the one thing that I would recommend. Don't live out of fear.
Yeah, you really have to change your attitude on things and realize that you're not a victim, because that's your first feeling, to feel like you're a victim or feel like, gee, did I deserve this? What did I do wrong? These are all the things that you're going to go through, but then you have to come out of that and be more positive. That's very important.
And my piece, and this is my little pet peeve about genetic and the comment of it runs in the family. So my belief is that it only runs in the family if your cousin in Timbuktu and your cousin in Puerto Rico and Connecticut and Hawaii and Colorado and so on also has it. Because if they don't, then it's not so much that it runs in the family, it's that it's environmental. And why do I say that? Because you live with your mom, you live with your sisters, you live with your father and your uncle and whoever, and they're all in the same area. And that's why I say if these relatives outside of this area aren't getting sick and don't have the gene and so on, it might be more environmental than anything else.
That's right.
So talk to your doctor, talk to your geneticist, and remember to put a little caution in everything that you take into your
body,
your awareness and your body and your mind.
Yeah, that's true.
So don't just believe everything somebody says. The sky isn't really falling, it might just be snowing.
Okay, that's different.
So, yeah.
Speaking of environmental though, all the poles outside of the houses lately that they're putting more, Verizon I think is putting those I don't know what they call those feeders.
Conductors, or whatever.
Yeah, I heard you read certain sites that say that it's not healthy. Actually, my neighbor,
the emission is very bad.
My neighbor and I, we wrote to the politicians out here. She contacted Con Ed, who said it wasn't Con Ed, it was Verizon. Verizon said it was Con Ed, and it jumped back
Everybody
and forth.
passed
That's not our pole. Nobody would change it. We said, put it across the street. We have a field across the street. They didn't want to, or we said, well, why are you having it facing our house? Face into the street. They wouldn't even change the way it was facing.
So there is an emission, an electronic emissions, and they have had studies where individuals that live close to power lines are more likely to have certain types of cancers and certain type of conditions. And so those are things also, remember, environmental. Look at what's going on. I'd rather have to walk 2 extra feet to get a better signal than be on top of a
one of those
radiation emitting towers.
Yeah, definitely. Same thing with phones.
So be conscientious. Read. Get information. The internet is a wonderful place, also a horrible place. But get your information. Get yourself mentally and educationally aware of what's going on. And there are different devices that you can put on your phone or you can put on certain things that will help you reduce the radiative and sound waves and things like that. Because believe it or not, our body is sound oriented.
Right. And we're it's conducive. Like even if your bed is metal, the metal frame, and let's say you have your phone and all your devices in your room, and so it goes to that metal frame, that goes up into your body. You never know. Or how about teenagers that are going through puberty and they have their phone in their pocket and their phone is roaming, and that's taking more energy. Who knows what it's doing?
It's also the piece of that they did a study and they found that, this is one of my pet peeves, that women who put their cell phone in their bra ended up getting breast cancer in that particular area.
Yeah.
So being very conscientious, and that was my pet peeve. It's like, we are no longer in the 1800s and the early 1900s where grandma had to put her change purse into her bra so nobody would steal her money. Stop putting stuff in your bra.
Right.
Only thing that should be in your bras is somebody's hand or your boobs,
or your prosthesis.
But keep everything else out.
That's very good. I
so
like
on
that
wonderful note,
I like that.
Let's talk a little bit about fatigue.
Yes.
And how that affects us.
Yeah.
And there is a known, I don't want to say phenomena, but a known cause, cancer-related fatigue syndrome. And it is one of those pieces where if you have any kind of cancer, you tend to get a bit more fatigued.
Yeah, even before you get diagnosed. And that's the scary part, too, because a lot of people, if they don't listen to their body and they just feel tired and drained and worse, and they're not saying, gee, I better get checked out. And even a regular blood test, I thought a blood test would show you if you have cancer. No, it has to be specific blood work.
The TA25s.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and,
yes.
And they tend not to want to do that on people unless you're at stage 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah, when it's
But you can
too
always
late.
ask for it.
Right. It depends on the doctor. But you know what's fatigue? They don't tell you when you're getting radiation. Well, they didn't. I don't know if they do now. Radiation will make you fatigued. They don't tell you that much about chemo making you fatigued, or even the medication that you're taking.
Right.
Nobody said, oh, you're going to feel tired. I mean, I had a read up on it.
Yeah. And it's also the piece of, your emotional state will also get you exhausted and
mentally,
fatigued.
Right, mentally.
Especially when you have cancer or any kind of disabling disease, it becomes the piece of the one straw on the camel's back. It's just one more thing and one more thing and one more thing. And so being able to find ways to deal with your fatigue, whether that is taking naps throughout the day or being able to get somebody to help you. Wonderful to have support systems in there, whether the support is coming from your loved one, your kids, your neighbors, your church, whoever, to be able to take some of that load off.
Right.
Even if it's 15 minutes, it's like Calgon, take me away.
Yeah.
But being able to deal with that fatigue is very important because we tend to power through it.
Yes.
Or find
push too much.
Yeah, or we try to find additives, additives to power through it. More caffeine, more Red Bull, more, more something to help stimulate our system. And what all that does is it actually makes you crash even worse.
Right, it's worse too. It's the truth.
Yeah.
And not only that, like a lot of people will say, well, you look good. Why are you saying you don't feel good? But it's something inside. I hate that,
I used to say the better I look, the worse I feel.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure I don't look like crap while I'm feeling like crap.
Right. But sometimes when we do get some energy, we push and we do too much, and then we're exhausted. So what I've learned to do sometimes in a day, because I get up early and I do a lot of physical stuff, 20 minutes, I'll lay down.
Yeah.
I go in my room, and I just want peace and quiet, and I lay there and recoup, and then I can go on. But the whole thing is a lot of people don't understand you need to exercise. It sounds so exhausting, and it is in the beginning. But walk a quarter of a block at first, and then the next day maybe half a block until you're walking 4 miles, 7, whatever. But push through it. And actually it makes you tired so you fall asleep quickly. Because that's what happens to me.
And it is finding ways of dealing with your fatigue. So some people like yoga. Some people like meditation. The way I deal with my fatigue is I actually do a little bit more crocheting because it just gives me that meditative state, and it's just really relaxing.
Right.
So however you can relax without the caffeine, without the soda, which, by the way, remember, soda is like almost 90% sugar, and cancer thrives on sugar. So being, watching the sugar in your system, learning how to eat better, learning how to juice, because amazingly, juicing actually gives you so much energy. So when you're feeling that fatigue, it might be that you have an imbalance in your nutrition. So talk to your nutritionist. Wonderful book that we had donated actually to us. We had a whole bunch of copies donated by Simon and Schuster was Chris Carr's book, Crazy Sexy Juice.
Right, that's
It's
true.
so delicious. And if you're concerned about your weight, helps you with that too.
Yeah.
But it just gives you that energy because you're getting rid of all these toxins in your body and you're starting to eat healthier. And that's also part of getting rid of that fatigue.
Right, that's true. And actually, if you eat better, protein is important, but if you don't want to eat a lot of meat, you do your meatless Mondays or whatever, and you have your beans and nuts. Like to get energy, I have walnuts to give me energy sometimes.
Yeah, I love that.
Definitely.
I have to say, I used to thrive on Costco's, and I still
big
do.
bag.
But I would make my own little baggies. And so what I would do is I would get the mixed nuts,
Right.
you salted or unsalted, however you want, and make the mixed nuts. And then, because I didn't want just nuts, so I would make my own little trail mix, and I would throw raspberry or cranberries in
right?
there,
Yeah.
and raisins, and some people throw like little M&M pieces. If that's what you would want and that's what makes you happy, go for it. Remember, there's a soy component to
A lot of soy in
chocolate,
food.
and if you have breast cancer, you need to stay away from soy. But I would make these trail mixes, and every time I started, feeling my energy go down, or I would try to make sure that I ate a baggie
Right.
every 2 hours, because that gave me the protein that my body need, and you need the protein in order to heal, especially after your surgeries.
Right.
And making sure that you connect with how to stay on top of it. So again, fatigue might be just your diet, or it might be complications from the medicine or the treatment. Talk to your doctor, talk to your nutritionist, and keep track.
Right. That's important. That's
Keep
right.
track of, at this time of the day, I get really exhausted. So you know what? Schedule time off for yourself at that time of the day.
Shut off your phone, everything, even for 20 minutes. But before I forget, I remember I wanted to say something was that when you get an operation, you have surgery, like you had surgery, I don't know if everyone knows that they can get an aide sometimes to come to the house. That's important to know. Your doctor's not going to offer it, or the hospital. You have to ask, and then he will write out, or she, whoever your doctor is, will write out the prescription. And you could get an aide coming maybe 2-3 times a week for a few weeks, and that really helps.
Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky. I had a family member to come and help. But if you don't, that's important. No one ever knew that about the surgery when it comes to breast cancer.
And your doctor has to request it. So again, when they say, oh, well, your insurance isn't going to cover it, just get the prescription. Just write it out for me, and I'll deal with the insurance. They do provide the aid for however long. And sometimes, if you're really struggling mental health, they might give you an aid to be there as a companion as well. So be able to consider those possibilities. Look into that, because it's really important.
Yeah.
And if your doctor recommends it, then you don't have to pay out of pocket, which is always a good thing, because those bills add up.
Sure.
It's just crazy how quickly those bills add up. And somebody doing your laundry, or helping you with laundry, or helping you with cooking the food, and
when
things
you
like
can't
that.
move your arms,
It's
right?
so
You couldn't
important.
move your arms.
I know. I couldn't move my arms, and I had to where I had an aide for a little bit, and she actually. I was very particular on, I want to cook. I want to do this. This is me. I'm getting healthy. And she was very wonderful, because she would allow me to do what I wanted to do, which was make my cooking.
Right.
But I could never lift the pan off the stove. And if you have one of those metal pans, there's no way it's going up. Even now, I still struggle with the pans. But, somebody to be able to go, hey,
Right.
You know,
No, it's
and they
important.
do it for
things
you.
that no one tells you at first, you know. So I learned a lot with that. I thank you.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. It's
really
It's a
good.
wonderful thing.
And so that reminds me, so if your doctor's not doing the right thing, or if you feel your doctor's not giving you the time that you need to discuss everything, or they get annoyed and say, well, come back, you know, we can't take too much time to do this, or really doesn't understand what's going on. If you're taking a certain medication and there are different side effects, so you're, let's say, at the heart doctor, and the heart doctor says, well, I don't understand that medication, and they're not willing to read up on it, maybe it's time to dump that doctor. They're not God. They're great, but they're not God. And sometimes you need to move on.
Yes, sometimes you need to
all I'm
move
gonna
on,
say.
and you need to get those referrals.
Right.
Because, you know, I ended up developing sweet syndrome. Yep, sweets like in candy.
Yep.
And it is one of those, what it is, it's an immune disorder. And so my body actually thinks of everything as an infection. And so my white blood count went through the roof, and my stitches were dehiscing, they were letting go, I was open everywhere. And so none of my doctors knew what was going on. And it wasn't until I threatened criminal action that they actually referred me to a dermatologist. And the dermatologist was the one that says, oh, well, you're fine. You just have sweets. And so I spent 2 years getting shot up with cortisone
Yeah.
in the areas. So we had a
Like
really,
you didn't have enough trouble,
yeah, I didn't have enough
and
trouble.
pain.
But it is
That's
that
terrible.
one piece that none of the doctors knew what the hell was going on. And I was going on to my third surgery to correct the problem, when what it was that I was suffering from an immune disorder.
Right, and you were allergic to the sutures.
And I was allergic
the,
to the sutures.
What do you call the tape, the surgical tape,
Yes.
the surgical glue?
Yeah.
You know, whoever heard of that?
Whoever
But
heard
someone
of it.
should know
Yeah,
when
because I
you're
had
in pain.
my surgeon actually said, "Oh, nobody's allergic to surgical glue," and so he poured surgical glue to hold my skin together. And within 3 days, my skin was rotting, and he was off on vacation. So, like Debra says, dump the doctor. So. Always be your own advocate. Make sure you learn about what's going on with you. And if you don't like your doctor or they don't listen to you, then feel free to get another one. Feel free to ask for a referral. Feel free to change that practice and go to another hospital. That's your right as a patient. Always advocate for yourself, because nobody else will. So, believe it or not, we're already at the end of our show.
Yes.
I just love these shows. I know
We have
Debra
such a
and I
great
have
time.
such a wonderful time giving you and advising you and so on. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Dr. Charley Ferrer. If you have any comments, please contact us at info@cancertamer.org.
Thank you very much. I'm Debra. Have a great day.